What up, y'all? It is DB Bray from the Ooowee doing a pop up. Yes, you know what it is. So, tonight we're going to have Glen Dahlgren, who could be probably one of the best known video gamers of the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s. Basically, we had a black screen the last time, and basically, what ended up happening was something on Instagram was just crazy. So now I'm doing 30-minute lives just to make sure that it doesn't disconnect on anybody. That's the main important part for me. We're rocking spinners, Stan. We're rocking spinners. All right, here we go. Let's try to do this. There it is. All right, here we go. Glen Dahlgren, can you hear me?
I can. It's good to
All
be back.
right. Then welcome back to the Ooh Wee, because whatever happened last time will never happen again. I promise you that.
Yeah, let's hope not.
No, we're going to keep it to 30 minutes this time, so we make sure it doesn't never happen again.
Sounds good.
So, oh, awesome. I was going to talk about this guy. So, my map maker for my fantasy maps just popped on
Ah,
out of Sweden, man. I'll send you a photo. He's phenomenal, phenomenal. And gotta have a map. Gotta have a map. So let's talk about chaos. Let's get right into it. This is a new fantasy released a couple of days ago. How are you doing with the release? Is it going well for you, or are we still trying to find?
so yeah, the book is called The Child of Chaos,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was released last Sunday. And I think the launch went about as well as it could go. That's what I prepared for. I got a bunch of ARC readers. A lot of the reviews dropped, and they're all fantastic, which is great. And I actually and I think we talked about this before, but I got Pierce Anthony to give
Mm-hmm.
me a review, and it was awesome. And once I got that, I think I got the confidence to be able to send it to a bunch of other people, and they dropped all their wonderful reviews. So I've got a really big set of fairly high profile people who are saying good things about the book, and that sets up a really good launch. So I'm really happy with that.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of writers don't understand what it takes to get behind the scenes arcs, just so that when your book does release, I mean, that takes months and months of planning. That's not something you just press a send button. I mean, you have to search these people out, and that's
That exactly right. I think I was looking to get people to respond for about 3 months
yep,
before I launched.
yep. I have some contacts over in the UK. I'll hit you up privately that are big in the UK fantasy community. Plug you in
Sure.
there on those magazines. They also take short stories, so that
Hmm.
might be something that you might be interested as well. So let's talk about the book. Let's go with the plot line. Then we'll get into the characters, and then we'll do some world building. Are you there, Glenn?
So you're buffering right now.
I'm buffering. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right.
Sure.
Let's start with plot line.
Yeah, you're okay now.
All right. Let's
So
go
do
with
you want
plot
me
line.
to sort of launch into the concept of the world?
Yes, concept of
So
the world.
okay. So basically, the tagline for this book used to be, before I started going a little bit more character centric in describing the book, the tagline was all about the world, and it doesn't matter if you're good or evil as long as you're something, and that means basically order controls this world, because they locked up chaos a long time ago into a vault. And so
Okay.
this world is, very much in place and very stagnant, and it has all of these temples, all of these various aspects of order, good and evil, and war and law and charity. All of these are different aspects of evil, or excuse me, aspects of order. And the society's been this way for thousands of years. And if you get pulled to one of these temples, one of these religions, your life is set because you are a priest, and a priest in this world control everything. But if you're
Okay.
not, you're one of the faithless, and they're sort of the serfs of this world. They sort of, their toil fuels the engine that makes this society work, and it's not great to be a faithless.
It
But
never is.
there's always that chance, you could get pulled to a temple, and they keep telling you, hey, the longing could appear in your life at any time. So people keep hoping and wishing and actually spending gold to test at these places, even though there's really no chance of them succeeding. But there's also this other thing that's happening, and that's chaos. And chaos is actually pulling people too. People have a longing for chaos. And normally, when people show up at the vault, Order kills them. They actually have the high priest of evil meet them there and kill them. And now we have a couple of people who have the longing of chaos who don't get killed, and that's sort of what this story is about.
Okay, so in your opinion, do you see this as more of what would you say this is kind of, if you were to relate it to a movie? What would you think that the two movies that collide that would be
Oh,
similar?
jeez. Oh, I mean, I think I would have to say, someone said this recently. They brought up Game of Thrones, not as a movie, but sort of as a visual approach. And that is because it's not your traditional like hero's journey. I mean, I don't have my protagonist say, okay, here's the problem and here's what I have to solve, and I go solve it. Now he's kind of sort of figuring things out. Honestly, if there is such a thing, it would be the villain. The villain gets pretty much equal screen time to the hero in this book, and he's got a plan, and he's going through his plan. He's actually almost the star of of this book.
Okay.
But you really don't, the pieces don't all come together until the end. And that's kind of more Games of Thrones than like Lord of the Ringsy.
Right. And so would you say this is an epic or low fantasy, or, I mean, there is magic in it.
Absolutely. Well, it's young adult, but I would say it's
Right.
epic young adult. And it's a
Okay.
little dark.
Right.
It is young adult. I mean, the protagonist is the main characters are about the right age. They go through a coming of age sort of, events. But it's dark. I mean, when they go into the Temple of Evil, they go into the Temple of Evil, and that's it's nasty.
Okay.
So more adult than young.
Okay. And so you're saying that it's a ladder of the young adult. And I think a lot of people misconstrue young adult as a specific set of rules. And there isn't a specific set of rules in young adult. You can have adults in young adult. Young adult reading can be done by somebody in their 60s.
So the stats that I read is 70% of the books, young adult books, are purchased by adults. And 50% of the young adult books are read by adults. So
Yep.
while a lot of people are reading those, a lot of kids are reading, it's definitely adults are absolutely reading these books too. But that said, I would say young adult is not a genre. Young adult is kind of trying to identify a readership, but it's gotten more and more sophisticated over the years. So this is not middle grade. This is not young kids reading this, but young adult is, I mean, it's kind of dark now, or it can be kind of dark nowadays. And you look at Hunger Games and look at, some of the other titles that are out there. There's
Maze
real,
Runner.
yeah, exactly. There's real violence. There's real, there's some scary stuff in there. And
Yes.
so I had this conversation a number of times, mostly me asking, is it appropriate for me to put young adult on this book to people? And everybody said, yes, don't worry about it. These people, this audience can handle it, and they're actually expecting it. So I'm cool with it. But adults absolutely will not find themselves left behind, and they will appreciate the story.
Absolutely. It was a killer cover. Did you design that yourself, or did you get a designer for that?
So I designed it, but I worked with an artist that I worked with way back in my Legend days, and Legend Entertainment days, where I made computer games. She had actually stopped making art for a few years, and I brought her back because she couldn't resist a project where we got to work together again. So I designed the cover, and she brought it to life, and she deserves so much credit for that. I agree, it's outstanding, and she did an excellent job. And actually, she had so much fun doing it that I think she's going to be doing more covers. So I really hope
Awesome.
so.
Yeah,
She's an excellent artist.
it's a huge market out there. Absolutely massive market for
Mm-hmm.
covers. And the one thing I do like about the cover that you're having is that it's unique in a certain way. There's a lot of vibrant colors out there. There's a lot of white backgrounds. There's not too many black backgrounds with
Right.
a superimpose on it. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, there it
So
is. So it's very
I'm going to show
rare
it off.
that you know
I'll
what
try
you're
to move
getting
my
into.
fingers a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's so. So I heard even before I started designing the cover, one of the things that one of the rules you need to follow is the cover makes a promise that the book has to fulfill. And you can get a pre-made cover out there that hopefully has something to do with the story that you're telling. But I really wanted to use the cover to draw the reader, the viewer of the cover into the story before they ever even start. And so that's what those dice are. So that scene is actually this scene is from the climax.
Okay.
That character is doing those things with those dice in the climax, and there is red fog and everything. So I actually didn't design the colors. I really just pulled the scene out of the book. But everybody that I've talked to who really likes this cover loves those dice because it makes the title dynamic and
Yes.
starts pulling you in and start asking questions. What's going on here? What is this story about? And that we wanted to be different. We want to be different from everything else that's on the shelf.
And that is something that can happen. So have you ever tried going traditional, or did you just pretty much come out the gate with the self pub?
Oh, so yeah, my story. It took some bumps to get to this point. First, I tried querying for agents, and I got some bites there. I submitted some manuscripts, but none of them got really serious enough until towards the end. There were a couple, and at that point, I had actually gotten an offer from a publisher, and so I decided to go with the publisher. And I was with that publisher for about a year, and at the end of that year, they decided they were only going to do digital. So they weren't going to do any paperbacks or hardbacks. And the way I see it, for an author, you are in it for certain things. One of those things is not money, because you're not going to make a huge amount of money unless you're really, really lucky.
Yep.
And so the other things are, number one, you want to hold your book. That's a big moment for an author.
It is.
And the second is you want to hand that book to someone who really wants to read it, maybe even sign it for them. And
Yes.
you don't get any of that if you go digital. If you go digital completely, all you're saying is that's all that's important is the sales,
Yep.
not the
Yep.
tactile feeling of holding that book, not giving someone else the opportunity to have that experience, that tactile feeling of reading a book. And so I couldn't do it. And so at that point, I severed my agreement with the publisher and decided, you know what, I can do this myself, and I don't have to cut somebody else in on whatever money I'm going to make. And so that's what I did, and I think so far it's going pretty well. But I still have a lot more learning left to do as far as promotion and advertising and sales and everything.
Yeah, that's I've been in the game 5 years, and I'm just now starting to get a very minute thought process. It's kind of with the hashtags on Instagram. I have a team that does that. Like I don't get it. Like I'm not that tech guy. And so when I say, hey, we're going to
Yeah.
have Glen Dahlgren on, and then I'm calling people like, what do I put on a hashtag? What is a hashtag? And they're like, he's a young adult writer. I was like, yeah. So like # young adult. And I'm like, ugh. So that took 5 minutes of my life I'll never get back. I couldn't figure that out.
I am
But
not
it's
started
on the
using
mini
hashtags
video.
yet.
Yeah. So that's not my thing. Do you find that Twitter's more interactive in the fantasy community for you, or is it kind of just there?
So can you repeat that question? You were buffering, and I missed half of it.
That's usual. I apologize. So
That's okay.
when you are on Twitter, and
Mm-hmm.
do you see the Twitter fantasy community, both traditional and self-pub, reading the stuff that you're putting out there? Are you getting likes and comments and those type of things, or is it just screaming into the void?
No, so Twitter is still a big question mark for me. I'm not a Twitter master. I think my efforts have really been almost entirely on Facebook, and it's just because
Okay.
I haven't wrapped my head around it. That kind of remains a frontier for me to explore.
Yeah, I pulled the plug on it completely. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. I was tired of yelling into the hole. And basically, I
Yeah.
think the algorithm works that if you're famous like Chuck Wendig, you can get 5,000 comments on a political post. And if you're me, I scream and I say, I love to read everybody's work. Send me your stuff. Nothing. And I'm
Wow.
like, wow, okay. But when I went to Instagram, man, my career just skyrocketed in a matter of like 30 days. I had more readers than I had in 5 years.
That's wonderful. And I know that I need to be more present on Instagram. I know that my readers, young adult readers especially, are more on Instagram than they are certainly on Facebook.
Absolutely. And just to let you know, Ori Spado, the mob boss of Hollywood at one time, just joined, so he now sees you, and so does Bishan, the author. He's a big supporter. So let's hold up the book again, and you show me, what the name of this book is and what it's about.
All right. Well, it's, yeah, The Child of Chaos. It's my debut novel, but I have been writing for many, many years, notably in other people's worlds, like in Robert Jordan's world and in The Wheel of Time, in Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman's world, in Deathgate, in Frederick Pohl's world, in Gateway 1 and Gateway 2, and Piers Anthony for Xanth, Terry Brooks for Sword of Shannara. So I've experienced a lot of collaborations with a lot of different authors, and this is my first original title that has been in the work for about 20 years. So I'm really happy and proud to finally get it out there.
And it's insane that to think that the computer games of today wouldn't exist without the Glen Dahlgrens of yesterday. The guys that were in the foundation that literally built gaming. I mean, like everybody plays a PlayStation, everybody plays an Xbox, and they're Call of Duty, and they're flying in, and they're dropping all that stuff there. And I look at it and I go, you pay no respect to the old school guys
Well,
that started.
I mean, that's true. I mean, the new generation, they're not aware of sort of the impact that we had, that, my generation had, but that's okay. I mean, I actually had a lot of fun sort of helping to mold like the first person shooter genre. So I made a couple of influential titles, Wheel of Time and Unreal 2. And I think we helped to establish a lot of the, accepted practices, the experiences that people were having, and that was a great time to be a part of that. But back when people really didn't expect story to be a part of their shooting experience, and yet we were able to get in there and say, no, 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 you should expect a story, and here's a good one for you. And not only that, here you can play inside of a universe that you already know. And so we had a we had we had a lot of success doing that.
I mean, I look back and I think of, I had a pretty bad upbringing in the fact that, there was a lot of neglect things going on. And I remember playing Excalibur on a 5 1/4. I remember the 3.5 days. I remember the Sierra games. I mean, you were breaking into the market at that time, graduating college, and really, if you're a big computer game head and you're watching this on rerun, all of those games from the originals are still for sale from you that are actually autographed. I mean, that's a collector's item. We're not playing around here. If you're an old computer head, that's the real deal. In your opinion, who was the easiest person to collaborate out of all those famous writers that you had just said?
No question, it was Margaret Weiss. She was more approachable. She said basically, if it's easier for you to call me and ask me a question than to look it up in the book, call me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I couldn't ask for anything better than that.
And you've
And
worked with some people.
I did. I asked her, what are the names? What do you call the Tiger Men in the labyrinth in Deathgate? And I asked her that twice because the answer was always Tiger Men. And I'm like, that can't be it. That's got to be what I just shorthanded in my notes. She said, no,
She
that's the name. They're called Tiger Men.
yeah, she's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And I think that if anybody doesn't know who Robert Jordan is, he's considered, in my opinion, to be of the Tolkien-esque level. You could say George Martin, Tolkien, and Robert Jordan in the same sentence. We lost him far too early. He died far, far too young. What was he, in his 50s when he got cancer?
Oh, I don't remember how old he was when he finally passed. The problem was, of course, that he didn't finish the series. I mean, and also he was a wonderful individual. But
Yeah.
luckily, his they were able to get Brandon Sanderson to come in and finish it up, and he did an excellent job.
He did, but Sanderson had a different style, has a different style of writing than Robert Jordan did. I don't know too many people that can captivate you for 600 pages the whole time you're interested. And it's like, it's a, what, 10, 15 book series? Is that what it was? 12? When did he die off?
I
10?
think it's 12, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, he died just near the end of it. And you created a computer game out of one of what is perhaps known as to be the one of the greatest series of all times.
Yeah. Well, and actually, it's interesting because I was given a list from our owners at the time, which was Random House. They gave me a list of all the authors that I could work with, and I looked at all of them and I said, I hate them. I hate them all. How about this? And I pulled out Robert Jordan's book and I said, someone just gifted this to me, The Eye of the World. I really like it. How about maybe doing something there? And they said, well, we don't represent him. We don't. He's with Tor. I said, well, you know what? This might be a good opportunity for me to go and have a conversation with him. Maybe we could pull him over there. And they said, that's a good idea. So I had that as my mission as well. But that got me into the door, and actually, he didn't want to make an adventure game. I actually designed maybe a third of the adventure game for Wheel of Time before he put the kibosh on it. But what he did want to do was something that I had designed sort of in the back of my mind, which was Doom meets Magic the Gathering, and that experience I thought could be really, really compelling. And he loved that, and he knew that there was a market there for something like that. So he signed up for that, and that's what we ended up making. It was our first-person shooter. We actually had to completely rebuild our company to make that game.
And so, if people are wondering, Gears of War was that Gears of War is in the newer part of 2005. That really changed the game. Of course, Legends Entertainment. I can go on a list of Glen Dahlgren accomplishments. To add author on top of that, what to you was more rewarding at the end of the day?
So making games was all about providing a vision to a team of really talented people who were way more talented than me in a bunch of different areas. We had artists and animators and programmers and music composers and producers. We had all these people who were all feeding their talents into this one game and just sort of keeping them all on that road, and basically giving them an end point, letting them know, I can see what it's supposed to be and we'll get there. And then getting there and then shipping that product was amazing. It was more than just me. It was always more than just me. And that was really satisfying. Making a book is much more of a personal experience for me. Most of it is coming from me. That said, there are very talented people that I'm working with. Obviously, Cindy Wenzel, she's the artist who made the cover. It was amazing. Lily Lucchesi was my editor and formatter. And then a series of really, really talented beta readers helped me out a lot. I mean, this book is very different for their input. That said, I wouldn't have gotten here without them, but it still feels very, very personal to me. I mean, it's my heart and soul, and I'm chucking it out there and hoping for the best. So I like it, but I like it in sort of a different way.
So, are you a plotter on an outline, or are you a seat by your pants kind of guy?
Well, I think everybody is sort of a combination of both. I mean, I don't think most people are, I should say. I have to have an outline. I need to know where I'm headed. I need to know sort of the ending. Usually I make the ending before I make anything else. And then I hit my major plot beats. I know where I'm headed. And then I discover where I'm wrong as I'm writing the book. And it's the same way for making games, honestly. If you don't give yourself the option or the opportunity to see where the thing wants to go, to find out where the fun is and capitalize on that, then you are doing yourself a disservice, because the original vision is never as good as what you end up wanting to ship.
Right. So I definitely write by the seat of my pants. There isn't one piece of an outline. The only thing that I actually write down is the character description because I forget three-quarters of the way through when they die. I forgot what they looked like. They're just voices in my head. So, that's, for me, an outline, I'll get writer's block all day because I'll try to stay on track of that outline and it won't deviate. And then I'll just get blocked after about 10,000 words and I can't push. So, I respect the people that can outline because it probably comes a lot more smoother than mine. There's a reason we call it the ooh-wee because we just never know.
Gotcha. Yeah. I totally respect that. It's just not something I could do.
Right. And each writer is different and not book is for every reader. And that's the thing. If they're expecting when they pick up Child of Chaos, if they're expecting a history lesson about the Turtleberg Forest, and that's what I don't like about covers sometimes, is they're just so bland that they have nothing to do with the book, and then you pick it up and you go, wow, there was a dwarf on the front of this, but there's no dwarves in this book. Why?
That's exactly what I was saying. If the cover isn't telling you what you're going to read, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but maybe you should. I mean, if it's an actual book and it's
Yeah,
got a cover, it probably is telling you something about what's in there, or at least it should.
it should. And that's what I like about your book is that it actually is very up close and personal, and it shows you the character. So who's the lead character's name and what are they about?
So that's Galen.
Galen?
He's a kid and he's got some issues. It starts out with him very young,
You think,
and
Glenn? The cover's
you'll
black, Glenn.
I mean, he's a good kid. He's a good kid, but he's sort of been haunted by some things in his past that he's sort of he's discovering as time goes on. And he's got this longing. Something took his mother away when he was around 6 years old, and he never found out what happened. He has a journal that sort of gives him clues, but only really succeeds in making him worried that the same thing's happening to him, which it is. And I'll sort of leave it at that. But he's an explosively imaginative kid. It's one of the reasons he has this pull to chaos. I mean, chaos. So the way that I see chaos is it's not evil. I mean, it's not bad. Just like order, honestly, isn't bad. And it's kind of what the book is about. Order unchecked equals stagnation. Chaos unchecked, equals anarchy, which is not bad, which is not good. But you need both, because if chaos, if creativity, if imagination isn't pulling you forward, isn't changing, isn't growing, then nothing's ever better. And in fact, I had a beta reader that really connected with Galen, and her feedback was mostly about how she appreciated his journey. And so I actually used that. I wrote up an author's note at the end of the book where I talk about that, because Galen is really, he's a creative kid, and the world is telling him not to be creative. And it's putting up all of these obstacles in his way about how he should express himself. And a lot of people out there feel that way. And so this is his journey to figure out not only how to express himself, but that it's okay to express himself. And it's important that he express himself because he can see things that we can't. And he can bring those things about. And that's the only way that things move forward. So I was actually really, really grateful that that beta reader expressed that to me, because I knew that that's the direction I was taking, but I didn't know that it was connecting. And to find that out, it was really nice.
These people really think that they're real. That's the crazy part to me, is that Galen isn't real. Like, he's not sitting in the corner hiding, being like, Glenn, play with me. I mean, it's literally, he lives in our head, but he doesn't live next to you. And when these people read this book, they just go completely megaton, and you're like, you'd act like I just shot your dog. Like, it wasn't he had to die. There was nothing else I could do.
Yeah, I have a scene in the book where something like that happens. I'm not going to go into it, but
yeah, and they just sit there and
people can get upset.
They want to eat your babies and stuff. It's like, why?
So remember that I worked on licenses like Wheel of Time and Star Trek. I was the creative director on Star Trek Online. I've worked with fans who do believe these things, who need anything that's based on their license, their property, because they feel like they own it.
Yes.
Anything that they are involved in has to be up to their standards, even if it's not the way things should happen. They feel such an ownership over it that you don't want to cross them. And so I found out quickly, whenever you work with a license like that, with a property like that, you need to show it a lot of respect. And even if you do something that these people don't necessarily appreciate, you can win them over by explaining why you made those decisions and how those decisions actually end up respecting the property. Because if they're just knee jerking, they'll hate you, and they won't listen to another word you say. But the way you once you've convinced a few of those really hardcore fans, then they're out there actually championing your effort. And so you get these people defending you to the people who don't understand the thought process that went through, which is the only way to go.
You know what I love is because as a game designer, you're so behind the scenes that nobody would recognize you walking in a con. And they're walking around going, I got the Unreal 2. I got the Unreal 2. And you're sitting there going, you like it?
That's yes and no. So I've been actually recognized a few times.
Okay.
Really surprising because, it's been a while. But when I was part of a project, I tended to be on the forefront of it. So I would be managing the community. I would actually have my face out there. Okay. And when it came to Unreal 2, actually, I was on the stage. I was throwing the T-shirts, and I was, telling everybody about the thing. So I became, known, sort of I don't know, I would say a big fish in a small pond. In certain ponds, I was pretty big. In other ponds, I was pretty small.
Right. But I think, and my point to that is that, for somebody that doesn't, for like Star Trek Online, they're going to know who you are because they may not agree with what you did. And then you're going to be like, oh, wow, kind of crazy person. I'm trying to have dinner with my wife. Do we not need to talk about the Klingon invasion?
That exact thing happened to me at one point. Someone came up to me when I was having dinner at a restaurant, and it was actually for Wheel of Time. And they recognized me from a community post I made because I had a website, and it was really weird. But he recognized me from my wedding pictures that I had posted up there. And he came up, "Are you Glen Dahlgren?" I said, "Yeah, I am." And he just told me everything he wanted to tell me about Wheel of Time.
Right for your wife.
Yeah, she was amused.
Yeah, she's just probably eating the salad, going, "I told you not to do this." So, I think that's crazy. I think that, I've been a big fan of yours for a very long time. And just the gaming that you were able to create, really changed the trajectory of my life. Because if I didn't have computer games to fall back on, I would have ended up in the streets. I mean, that's what, my friends were either cops or criminals. So either you stayed inside or you went outside and did what you needed to do. So playing a game like Unreal 2, playing a game like, we go back to Legends Entertainment, we go back, we're going back. I mean, Wheel of Time, those type of things. I grew up playing that stuff. So I'm sitting here going, wow, Glen Dahlgren wrote a book. Who knew? I mean, where is the talent stop? And that's the question to a lot of people out there is you are just so multifaceted. Is there anything you can't do when it comes to literary work, like designing, obviously, writing, obviously? Have you ever decided to maybe just run for, like, the mayor of, your town? I mean, is there something that maybe you haven't done?
Well, that's not even the same sphere. I have an interest in politics, but there's no way I'd ever want to get involved.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy following politics.
All right. I just had to throw that out there. Because there isn't a mountain that you haven't climbed. I mean, good friends of yours have created Doom. I mean, you got to understand that when you're sitting here on the opposite end of that as a fan, you sit there and go, wow, 96 was a crazy year. Like, I don't remember anything except Doom.
I mean, so honestly, writing this book and then releasing it still remains a huge challenge for me because I haven't figured out how to get it where it needs to be. What are the awards I need to chase if there's a possibility of getting those awards? Mm-hmm. What are the people what are the blogs I need to talk to? Where are the magazines that I need to get it into? How do I get this? And I think I might have mentioned this to you before. I think the product is good. I think enough people have told me now that they enjoy the product that I just need to get eyeballs on it. And I think that's every indie author's challenge It's like you need to figure out, how do you break through? How do you get people looking at your product and giving it a serious consideration? Because there's so much out there now.
There is.
It's a big sea of authors trying to get attention.
Yep. And if you don't make alliances and start collaborating early in your career, it's going to be a very long career, a
Yeah,
lonely one. I've
yeah.
seen somebody come up at a convention and go look at me and go, "Buy my book," and I'm like, "Hello, my name is DB Bray, and you are,"
Yeah.
and I
That
was like,
actually, I was on Spilling Ink not that long ago, and she made the exact point that too many people are out there trying to do a hard sell, and that just becomes noise. When really the idea is to make connections with people, let them know that you're a person and you're maybe hopefully interesting. And so if they feel a connection to you, chances are they might want to read your book. And so it's all about putting yourself out there and trying to get people to understand that you're a real person, that you have a story to tell, not that you're just, a cover or, an ad or something like that.
right. And I think that a lot of people that want to get on this show, it's like, okay, are you bringing a positive message? Because if you want to come on the show and be negative and talk about negative shit and, draw bad energy, you're not coming on the show.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that out there. Oh, traditional publishing has spurned me, so I self-pub to rub it in their face. Personally, okay.
You don't need to be,
No, you
you
don't
don't
need to
need to be the messenger of that.
you don't have to be the ooh-wee guy.
Yeah.
That's not a requirement. But we've been going about 36 minutes. I want to make sure this does not cancel on me. Okay, that's very important to me to
Okay.
make sure that this does not go black. So if you're up for another 30 minutes at a later date, probably in a couple weeks, we'll test the waters and see how we're doing, and then we'll come back and we'll do another live on a Saturday night.
Sure. That sounds great.
Just so I can say I talked to Glen Dahlgren. Maybe you don't know. All right.
I'd be
That's
happy to
just
come back.
all right. Excellent. So I'll be in touch, and I really appreciate you coming on. Can I get an
Well, thank you very
ooh
much.
wee?
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Oh, good. Thank you. That's so great that actually worked. Anyway, just to let y'all know, Mobilo Business Cards is starting sponsoring the show. And you can go on my bio in my link and get yourself one. They use EFS technology, which allows you to basically tap somebody's card with your cell phone, and you are able to upload all your contact information at that time. So go to my link in my bio on my Instagram, and I promise you, you will not regret it. So thank you for tuning in to Impromptu Ooh Wee with Glen Dahlgren, Children of Chaos. Check it out on Amazon.